Hi, hey, hello, how are you? And welcome to my channel. If I sound a little stuffy or raspy, and if my nose is a little red, that's because I have been sick for what feels like 65 million years. I am absolutely tired of being sick. I feel really bad because my filming schedule has been like so out of whack because I've been sick for so long, but I'm doing it. I'm here today and I am filming a video for you, okay? I'm doing it for you. This is my April wrap up. This is every single book that I read in April. I was only able to read 6. And here's why, let me tell you. So as much as I love using the TBR jar and making the fun little TBR videos each month, I'm not gonna stop. I will keep doing that because I love doing it. But I feel like last month I really shot myself in the foot because in order to try to choose the things that were on that month's TBR, I ended up kind of putting myself in a little slump because I did not feel like reading some of those things, which led to I wouldn't say a disappointing reading month, but like less than stellar. There were definitely some that I was not super into. Now, that's not to say it's just because I wasn't in the mood for them. Sometimes a book just isn't for you, and that's fine. Yeah, you'll see. Anyway, let's start this thing off. The first book that I read in April was Blackout by Ragnar Jonasson. This is the third book in the Dark Iceland series. However, please do not read it third, okay? I don't know why. Again, I tried to look into it, I'm not sure. Could be a translation issue. I don't actually think so. I think that this is the order in which he wrote them. Anyway, they're not written in chronological order. So you would think you would just read them 1 through 6. No, absolutely not. You're supposed to read them 1, 3, 4, 5, 2, 6. Make it make sense. I don't understand, but that's how it's supposed to go. I know that now, and that's unfortunate that I didn't know that to begin with because there are definitely spoilers in the second book, but I didn't know, I just didn't know, okay? Like, I didn't know that that's how it was gonna go. So if you want to read the Dark Iceland series, and you should, please read them in the order that I just told you. Please read them 1, 3, 4, 5, 2, 6. That is the best way to do it so you don't accidentally spoil anything for yourself. Anyway, so I'm reading the third book. I'm excited because I'm finally getting answers to some of the questions I had when I read the second book. Because the second book takes place, like, I want to say 5 years after the first one, Snowblind, and it was just like, what the heck? Like, so many things have happened, and you have no idea how they happened or why they happened, but they have, and you're just like, okay, I guess we're here. You get some of those answers in Blackout. So that was awesome. This book directly follows the events of the first book, Snowblind. I want to say it's just like 2 or 3 months later. My only complaint about this book is that there were a lot of storylines going on at the same time, and sometimes that was a little bit overwhelming. However, I just think that it's a lot, but I don't think it was necessarily messy, if you know what I mean. Like, sometimes when you read a book that's got lots of storylines going on at the same time, and some of them are on different timelines, it's super messy and out of control, and you're just like, what the heck is happening? Like, this one is not like that. However, like, you do need to pay attention. You gotta be paying attention, and you might get a little bit overwhelmed, but it will all make sense in the end, and I do think that the author does a good job of pulling it all together. If you didn't know, if you haven't watched my other videos where I talk about the Dark Iceland series, this is an Icelandic mystery series. It's been translated into English. The author has translated every Agatha Christie book from English into Icelandic, and his goal was to make a Poirot type character, but younger. Start him off from the beginning of his career. So we got our main character, Ari Thor. He is a new police officer. He's on his first job in the first book. And then when you get to this third book, Blackout, he's like, I think by this point he might be a year into being a police officer. This book was super intriguing though. It starts off with a man that has been murdered in the middle of nowhere in Iceland. A tourist accidentally happens upon him because he gets lost, and he ends up at this random house that's under construction in the middle of nowhere, and there's just this dead guy on the ground that's been beaten to death. So That's the main case that Ari Thor's got to figure out. There's also like this reporter that's introduced, and you're following her as she's following this story. She's got lots going on. You're hearing about what's happening with the other people in the town, some of which you met in the first book. Super interesting. I've really come to love this series. I can't tell you what it is about it necessarily. I mean, like, obviously I think the writing is great, but like, I just really like it. It feels like cozy to me. Not that it's cozy. I wouldn't call it like a cozy mystery. Like, it's definitely like a little bit intense. And I would put a trigger warning for a little bit of talk of sexual assault. That happens, so just be aware of that. But yeah, I really like this series. I feel like I've never heard anybody else talk about it. I found out about it via my father-in-law, and I want other people to read it. Please read it. Please read it so we can talk about it. That'd be great. This was unfortunately the last audiobook that my library had of any of the books in the Dark Iceland series. I borrowed the first one from my father-in-law, and then I listened to the second and third books from the library, and I've now run out. So at this point in time, I'm actually reading the fourth one, aka the third one, and I've borrowed it from the library, but on Kindle. So that's cool, but it takes a little bit longer, obviously, when you can't just like listen to it while you're doing dishes. So that's annoying, but whatever, that's not their fault. This book takes place in summer, and I gave it 4 stars. I am so excited to talk about this next book. After Blackout, I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book changed me. Like, that's not an exaggeration. I feel like I've heard so many people talk about this book and rate it so highly. I did too, gave it 5 stars, by the way. And like, I get it now. I get the hype. I have not stopped thinking about this book. I haven't stopped talking about this book. I've really been trying to get my partner to read it because they're super into video games. And this book is about our 2 main characters, Sadie and Sam. They are video game designers. And I thought that it was interesting because I have a very cursory knowledge of video games because of my partner, but like, you don't need that at all. You don't need to know anything about video games. I think it would be way more interesting to you if you know a bit or a lot about video games, because then it's like you can connect to it on a deeper level and you can really appreciate how much work the author put into making it super accurate. But I don't think that you need that. If you don't know anything about video games, still, please read this book. This is a literary fiction. It's absolutely wonderful. It spans over maybe like 25 years. It goes from the time that our main characters, Sadie and Sam, meet each other when they're like 11 until they're like in their mid-30s-ish. And it's just wonderful. I love some of the formatting in this book. It was just like creative and caught me off guard, and I really liked that. But like, no complaints, honestly. Like, I would read this again. I would own this. I actually borrowed this from my mother-in-law, and I would own a copy of it because I would definitely read it again. I would recommend it to friends. I would loan it out to people. I absolutely loved this. Yeah, no notes. Just please read it. I highly, highly recommend it. I love Sadie and Sam. They felt like real people to me, and also Marks is my favorite character, so if you know, you know. 5 stars. After that, I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This is a sapphic romance, which was fun. Shake it up a little bit. This is the first book in the Bright Falls series by Ashley Herring Blake. This book came out in 2022. This stars Delilah Green. She is a photographer, and she has an interesting relationship with her stepsister and her stepmom. Her father died when she was young, kind of like a Cinderella vibe, you know? But like, not really. This is not a Cinderella retelling. I don't know. That, it just made me think of that. Anyway, her stepsister is getting married, so her stepmother has hired her, Delilah, as the wedding photographer. So she has to go back to her hometown that she ran away from when she was 18, and she's gotta photograph her stepsister's wedding. She's not super excited about that, but she needs the paycheck. And while she's there, she falls in love with her stepsister's best friend, Claire, and it's really cute. It was adorable. This book was sweet and a little spicy. It was fun to get to know so many of the characters. This is a series that has 3 books in it currently. I don't know if it's done or not, but you know who the other books are about because the names of the main characters are in the titles. So the second book is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. The third book is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. And you get to meet Astrid and Iris in this book. So you're getting like so much backstory on them. And then I actually just recently started the second one, Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. And like Delilah's in that one too. So it's really fun to like get into this world and get to know all these characters. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed how much the side characters play into the main plot. I really like this one. I would definitely recommend it. I gave it 4 stars, not 5, because it just didn't give me that 5-star feel, but like I'm really excited to continue the rest of the series and see where it goes. Next, I read The Last Party by Claire McIntosh, and this is where the slump starts to hit, okay? And listen, this was not a horrible book. I think that a lot of people would really enjoy it. I've actually recommended it to a couple people, but it just wasn't for me. And I think it also was like not the most opportune time to read it because I was starting to slump and I didn't love it. So that was just kind of like a perfect storm of not greatness. So I did give this one 3 stars. But, like I said, you might really like it. This is a Welsh mystery. I am an ignorant American, so I was not aware that, like, there's feelings. There is tension between English people and Welsh people. And there's a lot of that in this book, which was interesting to me. So there is this, like, new lakeside resort that's built on this lake in Wales. And it was mainly funded by this guy, Rhys. He is a really famous singer, and he's from this Welsh village that this new resort is built in. So he's like coming back home, pouring his big time singer money into his community, but also everyone in the village absolutely hates it because they're like, you are ruining our cute little village by making it fancy, and also you're just bringing a bunch of English people, and we don't love that. So there's that. The resort is called The Shore, by the way. So the people at The Shore have this really exclusive, fancy New Year's Eve party. And then the next morning, all of the locals in the village have this like polar plunge that they do on New Year's Day. And it's like locals only. We're not letting the new English people in. And when they're swimming in the water, a dead body floats up, and it's Rhys. So that's crazy. And so it's up to our detective Fionn Morgan to figure out what's going on. She is also paired up with this English detective, and they have to work together, and that's like rough because they ended up spending New Year's Eve together, and then they are shocked to find that they are forced to work together on this case. So there's lots of drama going on. There's lots happening. One of my biggest issues with this book was that there is a lot of talk of sexual assault. And I was not expecting that. Not that that's never in a mystery book, but like I didn't think I was gonna have to check the trigger warnings, so I didn't. So I guess that's on me, but like I've talked before about how that's something that really is not, I cannot do that topic in books. So that definitely knocked it down a couple points. And then also, I just felt like some of the characters' motives for like why they might be suspects were like a little bit weak, in my opinion. Like I was kind of like, And then when you find out what actually happened, you're like, really? Okay. I don't know. That's just how I felt. But you might really like it. I'm not doing a good job of selling this book right now. But like, this is my channel, this is my opinion. So I don't know, maybe try it out. But yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. Also, if you want a book that's similar to this, but like really good, top notch, I would suggest pretty much anything that Lucy Foley has written. Like if you want a European mystery where there's a big ensemble cast and everyone's a suspect that has like a really strong motive, and it's like kind of confined to like a smaller area. The Hunting Party, The Guest List, The Paris Apartment. Oh my god, those are so good. Like, please read all of those. Those are amazing. But anyway, like, this kind of gave me similar vibes. Side note, The Last Party is another book that I also borrowed from my mother-in-law. I kind of want to get into the habit of telling you guys how I read each of the books that I read every month, just because per one of my last videos on like sustainability and like reading for free / cheap, like I just want to show you guys like legitimately, this is how I read so many books for so little money. The first one I borrowed from the library, and then the last two I borrowed from a family member. So just putting that out there, I kind of wanted to incorporate that into my videos going forward. The next book that I read after the last party was Before I Do by Sophie Cousins. This was the first Sophie Cousins book I've ever read. I know that she's kind of popular in the romance genre, but I had never read any of her books before. I ended up getting this at one of my favorite used bookstores. I went and sold a bunch of books that I didn't want anymore, and then I ended up getting this one for free. So I figured I would try it out, see how I liked it. Turns out, didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't awful, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't hitting the way I wanted it to. The plot is interesting though. We've got our main character, Audrey. She is about to marry the love of her life, Josh. And on the night before the wedding, during the rehearsal dinner, Josh's sister shows up with her +1, and it's this guy that she used to date for like a hot minute, and he was basically like the one that got away for her, and she's always wondered about him all these years because they lost touch. And so now she's got to figure out, like, am I doing the right thing marrying Josh, or should I consider this other guy from my past, Fred? That's unfortunate that his name is Fred, but what can you do? Like I said, this was not my favorite. If you want a really good book where the female main character has to choose between 2 guys, I highly suggest One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That book is amazing. The main character has to choose between her current fiance and her long-lost husband. So that one was really good. This one, not the best in my opinion, but I'm glad that I did it. I read it. It's off my physical TBR, and now I can sell it or donate it. I just felt like it was a little bit messy too. Like there's timeline jumping and it's not linear, and that was a little bit frustrating because it's like, it's the wedding day, and then the next chapter hits and it's like, no, it's the night before. And then the next chapter it's like 7 years ago. And then the next chapter it's like 20 years ago. And we're going through like Audrey's parents' divorce. And I just felt like I didn't need all that. Also, there's a little bit of sexual assault in this one too, unfortunately. So there's that. I just wasn't a huge fan overall, and I felt like the story was kind of forgettable, but I don't know, maybe you'd like it. But yeah, 3 stars for me. I don't know, maybe you'd like it. Try out the shitty book. And last, but certainly not least, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I know, so did literally everyone else. But don't you want to hear my review on it too? I, along with literally everyone else on BookTube, have been awaiting this new release since it was first announced, like almost a year ago. I remember her announcing it just a little bit after Happy Place came out, and I was absolutely stoked out of my mind. And let me tell you, Miss Emily Henry does not disappoint. Like, reading an Emily Henry book feels like coming home. It's a safe space. It feels like a warm hug. It's just delicious and cozy, and I love that so much. And this book was not any different. However, I'll just say right off the bat, this was not my favorite Emily Henry book. Please don't rip me to shreds for that. But like, everybody's got their thing, you know? Like, sometimes things just don't hit the way you wanted them to. And then sometimes other plot points hit a little bit too hard. And I feel like that's what happened. I feel like the main plot is super interesting. We've got our female main character, Daphne. First of all, love the name. But she is engaged to Peter. They're just about to get married, and on the night of Peter's bachelor party, he ends up breaking up with her and falling for his girl best friend. And that's really unfortunate. And now Daphne has nowhere to live, so she moves in with that girl best friend's ex-boyfriend, Miles, and they're roommates now because obviously she had no place to live because she was living with Peter, and he didn't have a roommate to cover the other half of the rent now that he's lost his girlfriend too. I just think that that plot is so much fun. There's also a little bit of fake dating in it, so that's amazing. Love fake dating. But I feel like Miles and Daphne's relationship maybe just didn't go at the pace that I thought it would. Like, it definitely gets there, and I really loved that. I really loved them together. I loved them as individual characters, but they just didn't hit as like a favorite couple as much as some of Emily Henry's other couples do. Like, in my opinion, they were no Harriet and Wynn. They were no January and Gus. But still good, still really loved them together. That was great. And then also, I would say, if you're a girl who's got daddy issues, if you have or have had an absentee father, this book is gonna hit you real hard, okay? Not that I would know, not that that's my story, but I'm just putting that out there for you because that was like a really big subplot and that was not my favorite. Like, that wasn't super fun for me. So because of all that, I did give it 4 stars, which is wild because I've given almost every single book of hers 5 stars, but I still highly recommend it. I still think it was really good. I think that if you're gonna read an Emily Henry book, you really can't go wrong. Just pick any of them, basically. So yeah, 4 stars. I read this one on my Kindle, and it takes place in summer if you want to read it when it happens. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed it. Comment down below, what did you read in April? Did you read Funny Story? Did you read anything else that's interesting? Tell me about it. I would love to know. If you like this video, give it a like. If you like me and my channel, you can subscribe. You can hit that little bell icon to get notified every single time that I post. All my social media links are in the description. You can go follow me on Goodreads, Instagram, Threads, Spotify, whatever. And I will see you next time. Bye!